September 26, 2025. Australia, a cornerstone of the Western Alliance, has joined the BRICS economic bloc. In a move shaking global power dynamics, the Reserve Bank of Australia will now hold the Chinese yuan as a major reserve currency. This isn't just a headline, it's a seismic shift in the world order. For decades, alliances were predictable. Today, that certainty is gone. Australia's pivot signals the East's economic gravity is now irresistible, even for the West's closest partners. This is more than trade deals. It's the dawn of a new era. The implications are vast, challenging the US dollar's dominance and forcing nations worldwide to rethink their alliances. Australia is gambling, balancing its Western heritage with its Asia-Pacific reality. The world is watching. Will this bold move pay off, or bring unforeseen consequences? In this feature, we'll unpack how Australia reached this crossroads, what the agreements mean for its people, and the global ripple effects. We'll explore the evolution of BRICS, Australia's economic dependencies, and the pressures that led to this historic decision. Expert analysis will break down the economic benefits and political risks. How will this affect Australia's security alliances, its economy, and everyday life? Join us as we navigate a world where old certainties have been swept away by the currents of change. To grasp today's news, let's look at BRICS, a bloc born from an investment acronym, now a geopolitical force. Since 2009, BRICS has aimed to challenge Western-led institutions, creating alternatives like the New Development Bank. Australia's history, by contrast, is deeply Western, rooted in the Commonwealth, then anchored to the US after World War II. Yet, economically, Australia's fortunes have become tied to China's insatiable demand for resources. This created a tension: security from Washington, prosperity from Beijing. When relations soured, China's trade bans exposed Australia's vulnerability. Traditionally, Australia's currency policy mirrored the West, with reserves in US dollars, euros, yen, and pounds. The US dollar has long been the world's reserve currency, underpinning global trade. Shifting reserves into the yuan would have seemed radical just years ago. Now it signals a pragmatic acceptance of a new reality. Australia's economic dependency on China is undeniable. The move to BRICS is a response to both opportunity and risk. It's a break from the old order and a leap into a multipolar future. The world is watching to see if this gamble redefines Australia's place in the world. Australia's BRICS entry followed months of secret negotiations, finalized at a landmark Shanghai summit. Prime Minister Albanese and President Xi formalized Australia as the first developed Western nation in BRICS. Australia will inject $10 billion into the BRICS New Development Bank, diversifying its infrastructure financing. The Reserve Bank will shift 15% of its reserves into yuan, up from less than 2%. Major resource companies like BHP and Rio Tinto will settle some iron ore sales to China in yuan, bypassing the US dollar. Why now? The global economy is fragmented. COVID, supply chain shocks, and conflict have fueled uncertainty in the West. The US Federal Reserve's rate hikes have destabilized economies, including Australia's. Meanwhile, BRICS nations are building parallel systems, promoting local currencies and growth less tied to Western markets. Australia sees this as a hedge against future shocks. Diplomatic ties with China have thawed, trade sanctions lifted, and exports rebounded. The Albanese government is pursuing pragmatic foreign policy, balancing US security ties with economic necessity. Joining BRICS is framed as making new friends in the region where Australia's future lies. It's a calculated move, born of national interest. The world is watching to see if pragmatism pays off. Australia's alliances are being redrawn. Its economic lifelines now run into Asia, Africa, and South America. The BRICS partnership opens access to a market of 3.5 billion people, hungry for Australian goods and services. Reduced trade barriers and UN settlements will cut costs and boost Australia's resource exports. But the benefits go further. Agriculture, education, and tourism stand to gain. Australian universities may see more BRICS students. Farmers could access vast new markets. Holding yuan as a reserve currency reduces exposure to US dollar volatility, spreading financial risk. As China's trade role grows, holding its currency is both logical and politically charged. This shift streamlines trade, saving time and fees. As a New Development Bank member, Australia can bid for major infrastructure projects worldwide. BRICS investment could fund Australian projects in energy, transport, and tech. The vision: a dynamic, interconnected future powered by new partnerships. But this superhighway isn't just about money, it's about influence and opportunity. Australia is betting on growth but must navigate new risks. The stakes are high and the world is watching. The next chapter of Australia's economic story is being written now. Australia's decision has triggered swift backlash from traditional allies. Washington recalled its ambassador, signaling deep concern. The AUKUS security pact is now under scrutiny. US lawmakers question sharing sensitive technology with a nation now aligned with China and Russia. Domestically, the move has ignited fierce debate. Some call it a betrayal, others a pragmatic step. The question: is Australia a Western nation in Asia, or an Asian nation with Western roots? The government must convince a skeptical public that sovereignty and democracy remain intact. For BRICS, Australia's inclusion is a strategic victory, lending legitimacy to the bloc's global ambitions. China claims a diplomatic win, showing its economic pull can reshape alliances. For the global south, Australia's move may inspire others to seek closer BRICS ties. The world is shifting to a multipolar order. Competition and cooperation will define the new era. Australia stands at the fulcrum, risking being a bridge or being torn apart. The outcome remains uncertain. The economic impact for Australia is profound, offering both opportunity and risk. BRICS alignment could boost GDP, open new markets, and reduce trade friction with China. Settling trade in Yuan cuts currency costs, making exports more competitive. Job creation is expected in resources, agriculture, and education. But the risks are real. Australia's fortunes are now tied more closely to China, which faces its own economic challenges. The yuan's lack of convertibility and transparency adds uncertainty for businesses and investors. For Australians, the effects will be felt in jobs, prices, and possibly inflation if the dollar weakens. Financial centers like Sydney and Melbourne could become yuan trade hubs, but face new competition from Chinese banks. The financial sector must adapt to rules increasingly set in Beijing and Shanghai. The transition is complex, requiring agility and resilience. Australia's economic future is being rewritten in real time. The stakes have never been higher. Dr. Evelyn Reid, international political economy expert, calls this Australia's greatest foreign policy gamble. The economic logic is strong, but the strategic risks are significant. Australia has leapt fully into the economic canoe, hoping it won't capsize in a security storm. The erosion of trust with the US may be hard to repair, leaving Australia vulnerable in a crisis. Adopting the yuan as a reserve currency is a symbolic bet on China's future power. Australia's public, high-profile move could accelerate global de-dollarization. Success depends on diplomatic skill, proving to Western allies it can join BRICS without compromising values or security. Within BRICS, Australia must navigate competing interests and maintain its own voice, the risk being seen as a friend to none in a world of growing competition. The next decade will test Australia's diplomatic agility like never before. The world is watching to see if this gamble pays off. The outcome will shape Australia's future for generations. Beyond politics and finance, this pivot will reshape Australia's social and cultural landscape. Expect a surge in Asian language and cultural studies, preparing a new generation for deeper engagement with BRICS nations. Migration and tourism from BRICS countries will likely rise, enriching Australia's multicultural cities. This diversity brings strength but also challenges. Social cohesion and integration will be key. Some may fear a loss of traditional identity, fueling debate and potential backlash. The government must communicate the benefits while safeguarding Australia's unique culture and values. Cultural exchange will flourish, more collaborations in film, music, and art. Australian galleries and media may showcase more BRICS content, deepening mutual understanding. These soft power ties could prove as vital as economic ones. Australia's evolving identity will be shaped by these new connections. Australia has crossed a threshold, declaring the old global order obsolete. This move is driven by economic reality and a pragmatic calculation of national interest. The rewards could be immense: growth, influence, and new markets. But the risks are just as great. Success depends on diplomacy, economic agility, and social resilience. Australia must balance ties with both Washington and Beijing, walking a tightrope with no safety net. This moment reflects a global transformation. Nations everywhere are reassessing their place in the world. Australia's choice will be studied for decades, visionary or miscalculation. The story is just beginning, with aftershocks rippling across alliances and economies. Understanding these changes is more critical than ever. The path forward is unwritten, shaped by the choices we all make in this new era.